Yum, 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 yum. And we're back for another week. You guys ready to drink? So you've already read the description. You know that we are diving into the old-fashioned. The majority of people nowadays know exactly what an old-fashioned is. Whether they learned it from Don Draper and Mad Men or the hipster revolution. They jumped into a speakeasy or one of the classic cocktail bars that cover all big cities now, and they got an old-fashioned. Obviously, if you're watching this video, then you like them. Maybe you want to learn a little bit more about the history of the old-fashioned. You know, how old is it? It didn't just come around 15 years ago when it got popular again. And you might have watched Mad Men, maybe you didn't. But Don Draper put soda in his old-fashioned. That's a little weird. Kind of amateur hour.
Why's that?
Make me nervous. All those
But did you know that the old-fashioned itself, that perfect cocktail, is actually the basis for the definition of the word cocktail? Yep. Back in the early 1800s, it was described as a potent concoction of spirits, sugar, bitters, and water. Now at the time, you could have went into any bar, saloon, bathtub gin house. Yeah, let's go with it. Bathtub gin house. And asked for a cocktail, and they basically would have made you what is a modern old-fashioned. But did you know that it wasn't called an old-fashioned back then? It was called a bitter sling. Now the bitter sling is the same exact description of old-fashioned cocktail, whatever you want to say. It was made with every kind of spirit. You had your whiskeys, your bourbons, your ryes, obviously, especially the modern. That's what an old-fashioned is. But you also had your brandies, your gins, your rums. Everything could be considered a bitter sling. You just throw a little bit in here, throw a little bit in there, and there you go.
And you go bam!
Now, by the mid-1800s, bartenders all over were adding all sorts of things to this cocktail. Orange curacao, absinthe, a whole handful of other liquors. And they started to complicate the process. So what happens? People don't like change. Kind of. People wanted those new cocktails, but people also liked the old ones. The term old-fashioned was coined. People were ordering old-fashions because they wanted the old style. So we talked a little bit about what actually makes up that cocktail known as the old-fashioned. Basically, take your glass. Back then you would throw sugar cubes in it, a little bit of water, mix it up, then add your ice, a couple dashes of bitters, add your spirit, stir it up a little bit, and there's your cocktail. I say spirit because, like I said before, all kinds of spirits, and I'm talking about the harder proof liquors, were used as their base for the old-fashioned. Nowadays, you will find a lot of people will use simple syrup in replacement of the sugar cubes. That's preference. I find when you use simple syrup to make it, you actually get a more even cocktail, meaning every drink, other than the dilution that's happening with an ice cube, it all tastes the same. I find with sugar cubes, though, when you mix them up, they don't dissolve all the way. So then you find yourself getting a stronger drink in the beginning, and then it evolves into something sweeter. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. Some people don't like that super sugar at the end. I'm just a fan of simple syrup. I think that having the ability to change the syrup, maybe throw some lemon peel in it, maybe put some spices in it, it gives you a completely different layer of flavor that you don't get with just a sugar cube. Granted, you can add all that into the cup and mash it up, and you'll muddle it and you'll get some of that, but I just feel like the simple syrup is the way to go. So over the next couple weeks, we're going to explore the old-fashioned from beginning to end. Well, not end, but, you know, to the modern version of it, which, like I said before, isn't that much different than the 1800s version, but we're going to put a little spin on it. So for this first week, we're going to do a gin-based old-fashioned, which is basically going to be your normal old-fashioned, but instead of whiskey, we're going to use gin. Then we're going to do a gin-based old-fashioned cocktail using some other things to, you know, complicate it a little bit. I follow the guidelines that I found on the internet, and we're going to use sugar cubes for this first cocktail. Now, when exploring these cocktails, you really start going down the rabbit hole and you find out that there's all sorts of different gins that were used back then. The specific cocktails that I'm doing, I wanted Holland gin, which is a little bit more junipery, but, you know, supply chain issues and all. I found something that's a little bit closer to that, but not exactly. And it is what it is. So let's start to make this first cocktail. So we're gonna start with our glass. We have a couple sugar cubes here. Put them together just a little bit. The recipe I found said to add just a little bit of water to start dissolving those a little bit. I did about four drops. Now we're gonna see what I'm talking about. Granted, I could be using a muddler, but it is what it is. Alright, so it's kind of mashed up. It's kind of a slurry right now. Looks a little bit like crack, but that's fine. I mean, you know, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. I'm gonna add a little bit more in there, just so it turns into a simple syrup. The next thing is going to be adding is Angostura bitters, but the directions say that I got to put it in first with the ice cube. So there's our big ice cube. It's actually tempered, so hopefully it doesn't crack. Who cares, really? We're drinking. So a couple dashes. Go. Stir it up just a little bit. So for the gin aspect of this cocktail, I went with Broker. It's nice, budget-friendly gin, and it's pretty close to the Holland gin I was looking for. Plus, it comes with this sweet little hat. Let's go! Look at that bad boy right there. Little bowler's cap. So let's take that off. So, 45 mils of gin. It's 40 and 5. Stir this up just a little bit. We're just breaking up the sugar. So that, and then just garnish with a lemon. Espresso oils. There's your gin old fashioned, old school style. So I'd almost call this like a spring old fashioned. It's a lot lighter than your whiskeys. Not a ton of spice. There's a little bit of spice in there. A little bit of cinnamon. But like packed with juniper and orange. It's actually really nice. If you haven't had one, do it. So this next cocktail, we're going to fast forward 50 or 60 years to the 1860s, where they started complicating cocktails a little bit. They wanted to evolve the cocktail into something else. I guess it's probably just a marketing ploy to sell more drinks. I don't know. It's kind of what they do now. But either way, remember, this is when they decided to coin the term old-fashioned, referring to the old drink, like what we just had. Now we're going to fast forward. We're going to complicate it. I don't really consider it complicating it, but we're going to add orange curacao to the drink. And then we are actually going to use the gum syrup that we actually made in another video. Good stuff. Super, super thick. It's going to give it a little bit of texture, which is nice. If you wanted to substitute it, you could always use simple syrup. But it's going to be a looser cocktail, and we're trying to stay a little bit more authentic with these. So that's what we're going to use. So let's start to build this. This is a shaken cocktail, so we're going to pull out our shaker and our strainer. Shaking was a little bit different to the time. It's actually funny. The old-fashioned recipe that I found And actually, with the sugar, at the end of the recipe, it said to serve it with a spoon, which is kind of funny. It kind of, once again, makes me lead towards simple syrup because, you know, they were just leaving it there so that people could eat the sugar too. All right, so, like I said, I'm sticking to the recipe. It's very interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of dashes and, dew and wine glass. That's a measurement. If you didn't know, it means 2 ounces. Now you do. So the recipe says 3 or 4 dashes of gum syrup. Here's my gum syrup. I'm going to give it 2 healthy squirts, and we'll see where we're at. This stuff would be, I don't know. It's hard to dash this. So, 1, 2. A little bit more. All right, that's going to be our sweetness. From there, I don't have Booker's bitters. Substitute is Angostura. It's like the general go-to here. It's good for tummy aches too. A couple dashes of this. Now we're going to add our gin. This is where we came up with the measurement for a wine glass, which I took it as people like to party, wine glass. But I actually Googled it. I'm glad I did because I'm not in the habit of drinking full glasses of gin. Maybe at one time in my life, but not now. I'm sophisticated. Ugh, plastic bottle special. So anyways, here we go. Like I said, wine glass is 2 ounces. It's around 60 mils. That's 40. And 60. Now our next ingredient is the orange curacao. It says 2 or 3 dashes, but big bottle, it's not a dasher bottle. So like I did with the gum syrup, I'm just gonna give it like a half a pour. Good for me. So that's basically our cocktail. Now we're just gonna add ice and shake. It's at 1/3 of a tin. Seems about right. Trying to chill the tin so that it seals. I don't want to wear this because there's not a ton of liquid in there. That's good. So now we have our glass. We're going to serve this up. Now we just garnish with a lemon to finish the drink off and express the oils. We're just going to float it in there. It's like a little taco. Cheers. Wow, that's kind of weird. The gum syrup really softens it. I didn't even use that much, and it kind of tames everything too. It's kind of nice. These old cocktails, they really had something going on. Like, granted, this is complicated for the time, but a spring thing. You really get the gin. With the curacao, it's really orange forward, but you still get some juniper in there. There's still a little bit of cinnamon. And then the lemon with the lemon peel it's nice. And I got to break out my new glasses. Ding ding. So there we go, guys. There's our 2 gin-based old-fashioned cocktails. You should try them. Let me know what you think. Hold on. I like this one better. I really like the gin old-fashioned, but it really had something going on with that gum syrup. It really softens it. I'm surprised. Just because, I mean, it's mostly gin. So you should be getting gin. It's so soft. Soft. It's SAWFT. Thank you. SAWFT! Jersey what? Which one do you like better? Try them and let me know. Please. Like and subscribe. Hit that little bell. You know what to do. Hit the bell. Get them all. Cheers, guys. You like... Cut. Action. And, you like a little... Cut. Now at the time, you could have went into any bar, saloon, horse barn, corral, maybe some people. I don't know. But if you haven't already...